The screen door slammed behind him with a crack that echoed like a gunshot through the humid Texas night, sealing off the only home he had ever known. Anthony stood frozen on the splintered wooden porch of the old ranch house in Willow Creek, his 14-year-old hands clutching a threadbare backpack stuffed with nothing but a change of clothes and a dog-eared copy of The Catcher in the Rye. "You're no son of mine," his father's voice boomed from inside, raw with the kind of rage that comes from fear dressed as righteousness, while his mother's silence stretched like an endless prairie, heavy and unforgiving. Dust swirled at his feet as he stumbled down the gravel path, the stars above blurring through hot tears he refused to let fall. Willow Creek was a speck on the map, a forgotten corner of West Texas where oil rigs dotted the horizon like skeletal sentinels and the Bible Belt cinched tighter than a rattlesnake's coil. Anthony had always felt the pull of something different inside him, a quiet ache that bloomed when he watched the older boys at school wrestle in the locker room, their laughter rough and alive in ways that made his chest tighten. It wasn't sin, not to him, it was just who he was becoming, like the way the mesquite trees twisted toward the sun despite the drought. But to Harlan Whitaker, his father, a devout deacon at the First Baptist Church with calloused hands from wrangling cattle and a heart hardened by sermons on eternal damnation, it was an abomination that demanded expulsion. He walked for hours, the summer heat clinging to his skin like a second shame, until the faint glow of neon flickered ahead, the all-night diner on the edge of town, a relic from the Route 66 days where truckers nursed black coffee and locals drowned regrets in pie. Anthony pushed through the door, the bell jingling like a false promise of welcome. The air smelled of grease and cigarette smoke, and behind the counter stood Rosa, a wiry woman in her 50s with silver-streaked hair pulled into a no-nonsense bun and eyes that had seen every kind of broken roll through those doors. She didn't ask questions at first, just slid a plate of pancakes his way, the steam rising like a fragile truce. "You look like you've been chewed up and spit out by the devil himself," she said finally, her voice gravelly from years of barking orders. Anthony poked at the food, his stomach a knot of nausea. "Something like that," he muttered, the words tasting like ash. Rosa leaned on the counter, wiping her hands on a rag stained with years of spills. "World's full of folks who'd rather burn bridges than build them. What's your story, kid?" He told her in fits and starts, the confession spilling out between bites, the way his father had found the crumpled note in his jeans pocket, a scribbled confession to his best friend Tommy about the butterflies in his gut during their last sleepover. Harlan's face had twisted into something monstrous, quoting Leviticus like a verdict, while his mother, Evelyn, stood in the kitchen doorway, her apron twisted in her fists, whispering prayers that sounded more like pleas for her own soul. "Pack your things," Harlan had growled. "We don't harbor that kind of filth under this roof." No discussion, no mercy, just the door, the night, and the vast emptiness of the plains. Rosa listened without flinching, her expression unchanging as she refilled his water. When he finished, she nodded once, sharp as a knife edge. "Stay here tonight. There's a cot in the back." Anthony blinked, the kindness a foreign thing after the venom at home. "Why?" he asked, voice small. "Because I've been you," she replied simply. "Ran from a family that thought love was a transaction. Learned the hard way that blood don't always mean family." That night, curled on the lumpy cot amid the hum of the fridge and the distant wail of a coyote, Anthony dreamed of cities where the streets pulsed with possibility, where a boy like him could breathe without apology. Dawn broke with a vengeance, painting the diner in strokes of orange and pink. Rosa was already up, flipping eggs with practiced ease. "You can't stay in Willow Creek," she said over the sizzle. "Not if you want to grow into whoever you're meant to be." She slipped him a bus ticket to Austin, bought with tips from late-night wanderers, and a $20 bill folded like a secret. "Start fresh. And remember, the world's bigger than this dust bowl." Anthony hugged her awkwardly, the scent of bacon and resolve clinging to her shirt. As the Greyhound pulled away from the depot, the ranch house shrinking in the rear view, he pressed his forehead to the cool glass, whispering a vow to the passing scrubland, he would survive this. He would become someone his father could never break. Austin hit him like a fever dream, vibrant, chaotic, a far cry from the monotonous drawl of Willow Creek. The city thrummed with music spilling from 6th Street bars, the air thick with the tang of barbecue and exhaust. Anthony crashed at a youth shelter on the first night, a converted warehouse buzzing with kids like him, runaways with haunted eyes and stories etched in scars. There, he met Javier, a lanky 16-year-old with sun-kissed skin and a laugh that cut through the gloom like sunlight. Javier was from El Paso, kicked out for the same sin, but he carried it lighter, like a badge rather than a burden. "We queers gotta stick together," he'd say, slinging an arm around Anthony's shoulders as they scavenged day-old tacos from food trucks. Javier taught him the ropes, how to bus for change with a borrowed guitar, strumming chords to folk tunes that masked their ache, how to dodge the cops patrolling for vagrants, how to find the underground spots where drag queens lip-synced to Gloria Gaynor and the crowd cheered without judgment. But Austin was no paradise. Winters bit deep, turning the shelter's thin blankets into cruel jokes. Anthony's first real scare came during a rain-lashed night when a group of frat boys cornered him in an alley, their slurs flying like fists. "Faggot thinks he owns the streets," one sneered, breath sour with beer. Javier pulled him out just in time, but the bruises lingered, purple blooms on his ribs that throbbed with every breath. "Hate's their problem, not ours," Javier said later, dabbing antiseptic on the wounds in the dim shelter light. In those moments, Anthony felt the fracture in his soul widen, the boy who once chased fireflies in the Texas fields now navigating shadows that threatened to swallow him whole. By spring, Javier had a lead, a community center in East Austin run by a guy named Marcus, a broad-shouldered activist in his 40s with a beard like a prophet and a voice that commanded rooms. Marcus took one look at Anthony's backpack and offered a spot in his foster program, a converted Victorian house that smelled of fresh paint and hope. "You're safe here," Marcus said, his handshake firm, eyes steady. It was the first time in months Anthony believed those words. The house became a makeshift family, 5 other boys, all queer kids pieced together from society's discards, sharing meals around a scarred oak table and secrets under the covers after lights out. Anthony threw himself into school, enrolling at the local high with a forged transcript Marcus helped finesse. Classes were a revelation, teachers who saw potential, not peril, hallways where he could steal glances at the soccer captain without fear etching his bones. But the past clawed back in quiet ways, a nightmare of his father's bellow, waking him sweat-soaked and gasping, a letter from his mother, forwarded by Rosa, that arrived like a ghost. It was brief, scrawled in her careful cursive, "Harlan sorry. Come home." No apology, just a summons. Anthony tore it up, the pieces fluttering like confetti from a funeral. Summers brought work at a local bookstore, shelving tomes on everything from quantum physics to queer theory. It was there he met Elias, a college freshman with wire-rimmed glasses and a smile that tilted like a question mark. Elias was studying film at UT, always scribbling notes on napkins about stories that to capture the ache of becoming. Their first conversation started over a dog-eared copy of Giovanni's Room, Anthony's fingers brushing Elias's as he handed it over the counter. "Baldwin gets it," Elias said, his voice soft with that Austin drawl softened by city edges. "The way love sneaks in, even when the world's screaming no." Anthony nodded, heart stuttering, the bookstore's musty air suddenly charged. They fell into easy rhythms, late-night walks along Lady Bird Lake, where the bat colony swirled overhead like a living poem, coffee at Joe's on the drag, knees brushing under Formica tables. Elias was out and proud, his parents back in Houston, the kind who flew rainbow flags without fanfare. "You're brave," he told Anthony one evening, their hands linking on a park bench as fireflies danced in the willows. "Surviving that?" "Most wouldn't." Anthony wanted to believe him, but the old doubts whispered, was he brave, or just broken? Their first kiss happened under a canopy of live oaks, tentative and tasting of lime sorbet, Elias's fingers threading through Anthony's hair with a gentleness that unraveled him. Yet even in those tender months, shadows loomed. Javier, ever the wild card, started drifting toward riskier crowds, parties in abandoned warehouses where ecstasy blurred the lines and dealers lurked in corners. "Live a little, Ant," he'd urge, eyes glassy. Anthony pulled back, the fear of losing his fragile stability too sharp. One night, Javier didn't come home, and the cops found him later, ODD in a motel off I-35. The funeral was a blur of rain-slicked umbrellas and Marcus's steady arm around Anthony's shoulders. "He loved you like a brother," Marcus said. Anthony nodded, but inside, guilt gnawed. If he'd tried harder, pulled him closer. The loss carved deeper, turning Elias's warmth into a lifeline Anthony clung to with quiet desperation. They moved in together that fall, a cramped apartment above a taqueria where the scent of sizzling carne asada seeped through the floorboards. Elias filmed short docs on queer youth, casting Anthony as an extra in scenes that mirrored his life too closely. "You're my muse," Elias teased, but there was truth in it, a vulnerability that bound them. Anthony, meanwhile, aced his GED and enrolled in community college, majoring in psychology with dreams of counseling kids like his younger self. Years blurred into a mosaic of milestones, graduation caps tossed under Austin's relentless sun, Elias's first festival screening, where Anthony held his hand in the back row, pride swelling like a tide. But Willow Creek tugged at the edges, a specter in holiday cards Evelyn sent sporadically, polite nothings about the weather, the church picnic, never mentioning the elephant in the room. Anthony burned them all, each flame a small exorcism. "You don't owe them," Elias said, tracing patterns on his back during sleepless nights. "But forgiveness? That's for you, not them." By 22, Anthony had built a life, a job at the community center, coordinating outreach for LGBTQ youth, a savings account with 3 figures, and Elias, steady as the Colorado River. Yet the call came on a Tuesday, innocuous as a wrong number. Rosa's voice, thinner now, crackled over the line. "Your mama's sick, hun, cancer. Stage 4. She's asking for you." The world tilted, the diner stool beneath him suddenly vast and empty. Anthony hung up, staring at the receiver as if it held the answer to every unanswered prayer. He booked a flight to Dallas that night, Elias driving him to the airport with a kiss that tasted of goodbye. "Whatever happens, come back to me," Elias whispered. Anthony nodded, but doubt coiled in his gut like barbed wire. Willow Creek waited, unchanged and unforgiving, a reckoning wrapped in the scent of bluebonnets and regret. The Greyhound from Dallas deposited Anthony back in Willow Creek like a stone skipped across still water, ripples spreading but the surface unbroken. 10 years had etched changes into him, broader shoulders from weekend hikes in the hill country, a quiet confidence honed by therapy sessions where he unpacked the shrapnel of his youth, but the town wore its familiarity like a well-pressed Sunday suit. The main drag was the same, faded awnings over feed stores, the courthouse square with its Confederate monument gathering dust, and the First Baptist steeple piercing the sky like an accusation. Anthony rented a car at the depot, a nondescript sedan that hummed softly as he navigated the familiar backroads, creosote bushes whispering secrets to the wind. Evelyn's house, no, the Whitaker house, loomed at the end of Cartonwood Lane, its white clapboard peeling like old skin, the porch swing creaking in the breeze. He parked at the curb, engine ticking cool, and sat for a long minute, hands gripping the wheel until his knuckles blanched. What was he doing here? Rosa's words echoed, "She's dying, and regret's a heavier burden than hate." Anthony exhaled, stepping out into the dry heat that baked his skin. The door opened before he could knock, and there she was, Evelyn, frail as a bird's wing, her once vibrant auburn hair now a ghostly white halo, eyes sunken but sharpening at the sight of him. "Anthony," she breathed, the name a prayer and a plea. He crossed the threshold, the scent of magnolias and hospital antiseptic assaulting him. The living room was frozen in time, floral wallpaper yellowed with age, Harlan's recliner empty since his heart attack 2 years back, a cross-stitched home sweet home above the mantel mocking the fractures beneath. Evelyn led him to the kitchen, her steps shuffling, and poured weak tea into chipped mugs. "Thank you for coming," she said, voice quavering. "I didn't know if you would." He sipped the tea, bitter on his tongue. Rosa called. Silence stretched, thick as molasses. Evelyn twisted a napkin in her lap, the fabric shredding under her fingers. "Your father's gone." Stroke. Quick, at least. Anthony nodded, a neutral ache blooming in his chest, not grief, exactly, but the echo of what might have been. "I'm sorry," he said, the words automatic. She looked up, tears carving tracks down her cheeks. "No, child. I'm the one who's sorry. For everything." The confession tumbled out then, halting at first, then in a rush, how Harlan's fire and brimstone faith had twisted her love into compliance, how she'd lain awake nights after that awful evening, replaying the slam of the door. "I should have fought," she whispered. "Should have run after you." Anthony listened, the boy in him yearning to bridge the gap, the man holding back. "You didn't," he said finally, voice even. "And I survived." They talked until dusk bled into the windows, Evelyn's stories weaving a tapestry of small rebellions, a hidden photo of Anthony tucked in her Bible, prayers whispered against Harlan's sermons that begged for her son's safety. Night fell soft and star-pricked, and Evelyn insisted he stay. The guest room was as he remembered, twin bed with a chenille spread, posters of rodeo stars faded to ghosts. Lying there, the ceiling fan whirring like old anxieties, Anthony texted Elias, "Here. Complicated." The reply came swift, "Love you. Call tomorrow." Sleep evaded him, ghosts parading through his mind, Harlan's scowl, Javier's laugh, the first press of Elias's lips. Morning brought the family, uninvited but inevitable. Anthony was frying eggs when the screen door banged open, admitting his siblings, older brother Caleb, broad as a barn door with a deputy's badge glinting on his belt, and sister Lila, sharp-featured and 7 months pregnant, trailing a toddler named Mason. They froze at the sight of him, Caleb's jaw clenching like a trap. "What the hell are you doing here?" Caleb growled, the words laced with the same venom Anthony remembered from boyhood tussles over the last biscuit. Evelyn stepped between them, frail but fierce. "His family, Caleb. And he's staying." Lila hovered, eyes darting, Mason clinging to her leg like a limpet. "Mama said you were coming back," she ventured, voice thin. Anthony forced a smile, plating the eggs. For her. The meal was a minefield, small talk about Lila's husband, a mechanic at the Ford dealership, Caleb's promotion to sergeant, the drought ruining the hay crop. Anthony shared sparingly, Austin, the center, Elias mentioned only as my partner, watching Caleb's fork pause midair, knuckles whitening. After breakfast, Caleb cornered him on the porch, the swing groaning under their weight. "You think you can waltz back in after all this time, acting like nothing happened?" Caleb's voice was low, edged with something darker than anger, betrayal, perhaps, for the family secret Anthony's existence had unearthed. "Dad died hating himself for what he did to you. Mom's wasting away because of it. And you? Living your life up there." Anthony met his gaze, steady. "My life. Yeah. It's good. But I didn't come to gloat. I came for her." Caleb scoffed, but his eyes flickered with cracks. "We buried Dad without you. The church whispered, but we held our heads high. You're the ghost that haunts us." The words landed like punches, stirring the old wound. Anthony stood, the porch board sighing. "Then let me be the ghost that heals." He walked away, gravel crunching under his boots, toward the old Whitaker barn where he'd once hidden from storms. The barn smelled of hay and memory, shafts of light piercing the slats like divine fingers. Anthony sat on a bale, pulling out his phone to call Elias. "It's a mess," he confessed, voice cracking. Elias's laugh was warm, grounding. "Messes make the best stories. Just don't let them rewrite yours." They talked for an hour, Elias describing a new script about fractured families, Anthony sketching his own internal plot twists. Hanging up, he felt the pull of the land, the way it cradled pain and possibility in equal measure. Days blurred into a tentative rhythm, mornings with Evelyn, coaxing stories from her like fragile blooms, afternoons driving the back roads, past the high school football field where he'd first felt Tommy's hand brush his under the bleachers. Willow Creek hadn't changed much, same diner, now run by Rosa's nephew, same Sunday services where the pews creaked under the weight of unspoken sins. Anthony attended one with Evelyn, slipping into the back row, the hymns rising like smoke signals. The pastor, a younger man with a megaphone voice, preached on prodigal sons, and Anthony wondered if the parable fit or mocked him. Caleb thawed in fits, a shared beer on the porch one evening, talking cattle prices instead of curses, a grudging nod when Anthony fixed the truck's carburetor, grease blackening his hands like atonement. Lila was softer, confiding over iced tea about her own doubts, marrying young to set things right, now trapped in a house that echoed with silence. "I envied you, you know," she admitted, rocking Mason. "Leaving. Starting over." Anthony touched her arm, the gesture small but seismic. "It's not all glamour. But it's mine." Evelyn's decline accelerated midweek, the cancer a thief in the night. Anthony became her shadow, administering meds, reading aloud from her worn romance novels, tales of star-crossed lovers who found grace in forgiveness. One night, as thunder rumbled distant, she gripped his hand. "I love you, son. Always did. Wish I'd said it louder." Tears came then, hot and unbidden, washing years of silt. "I love you too, Mom." The words were a key turning in a long-locked door. But peace was fleeting. Caleb called a family meeting in the living room, Lila fidgeting on the couch, Evelyn dozing in her recliner. "The ranch," Caleb announced, unfolding a will yellowed with age. "Dad left it to me. But there's a codicil, something about you, Anthony." He slid the paper across, the lawyer's script stark. Harlan had deeded a portion of the back 40 to Anthony, in case the boy ever returns. Caleb's face darkened. "He never told me. Thought you'd thrown it away like everything else." Anthony scanned the document, heart pounding. It wasn't riches, just scrubland dotted with mesquite, worthless to most but a tether to roots he'd severed. "I don't want it," he said. Caleb's laugh was bitter. "Too late. It's yours. And with Mom gone soon, it'll split us all." The accusation hung, greed, intrusion, the prodigal claiming his due. Anthony stood, the room closing in. "This isn't about land. It's about us." But Caleb turned away, the rift widening like a fault line. That night, alone in the guest room, Anthony paced, the will crumpled in his fist. Elias's voicemail waited, "Miss you. Thinking of you." He dialed, spilling the chaos. "They're seeing me as the villain again." Elias paused, then, "Or the catalyst. Shake them up, babe. That's your power." Dawn found him resolute, driving to the diner for coffee and clarity. Rosa's nephew, a kid named Diego with tattoos snaking up his arms, slid him a mug. "Heard you're back. Town's buzzing." Anthony nodded. "Let it buzz." Evelyn rallied briefly, a false spring in her step, insisting on a drive to the old swimming hole. They parked by the dry creek bed, cicadas humming a requiem. "Plant something here," she said, pressing a packet of wildflower seeds into his palm. "For Harlan." "For us." Anthony knelt, scattering seeds into the cracked earth, each one a whispered absolution. Back home, Lila pulled him aside. "Caleb's scared. The ranch is all he's got. Don't let it break you." Her words lingered as he watched Evelyn sleep, her breath shallow. The crisis peaked on a sweltering Friday. Caleb stormed in, reeking of whiskey, waving the will like a flag of surrender. "Sell your share. Get out," he roared, veins bulging in his neck. Anthony faced him, calm as the eye of a storm. "It's not for sale. It's for healing." Fists flew then, Caleb's wild swing glancing off Anthony's shoulder, the impact a thunderclap. Evelyn's cry pierced the fray, weak but wrenching. "Stop! My boys!" They froze, chests heaving, the room a battlefield of spilled tea and shattered illusions. In the aftermath, Lila mediated with herbal tea and tissues, the three of them slumped around the table like survivors. Caleb muttered apologies into his collar, Evelyn's hand bridging their knees. "We're Whitakers," she said softly. "We bend, but we don't break." Anthony nodded, the weight lifting fractionally. But as night cloaked the house, he wondered, could roots regrow in poisoned soil? The hospice nurse arrived Monday, a no-nonsense woman named Carla from Lubbock, her scrubs crisp as fresh linen. She bustled in with a medical bag and a chart, assessing Evelyn with efficient grace. "We'll keep her comfortable," she assured Anthony, her voice a balm against the encroaching dread. The house transformed subtly, morphine drips humming on the nightstand, pill bottles rattling like maracas of mercy, the air heavy with the scent of lavender oil. Carla swore eased the soul. Anthony took shifts, spelling Lila, who wrangled Mason and her swelling belly, while Caleb patrolled the ranch like a sentinel, his silence a fortress. In those hushed hours, Anthony and Evelyn forged a fragile intimacy. She spoke of Harlan's youth, a wild boy from Oklahoma Dust Bowls who tamed horses and hearts, only to chain himself to doctrine after a revival tent epiphany. He loved fierce, she said, eyes distant. But fear made him cruel. Anthony shared fragments of his Austin life, the center's holiday parties with rainbow cakes and bad karaoke, Elias's quirky habit of quoting poetry during traffic jams. Evelyn smiled faintly. Sounds like home should be. One afternoon, as rain pattered the tin roof, she asked the question he dreaded, will you bring him here? You're Elias? Anthony hesitated, the invitation a bridge too far. Not yet. Too much. She nodded, understanding etching her face. Regret's the real killer, son. Don't let it claim you. Her words haunted him that evening, driving him to the porch where crickets orchestrated a symphony of solitude. He called Elias, the connection crackling like the storm clouds massing west. She wants to meet you, Anthony confessed. Elias's reply was steady, then I'll come. For you. The promise settled in Anthony's chest, warm as hearthfire. Caleb's thought continued in uneven waves. A shared fence-mending session turned confessional, Caleb admitting to his own buried secrets, a college fling with a roommate that ended in a hasty marriage to a girl from church. Dad's shadow loomed large, he said, hammer pausing mid-swing. Made me bury it deep. Anthony lowered his post-hole digger, the earth cool against his palms. Burying doesn't kill it. Just starves you. Caleb met his eyes, the nod grudging but real. Progress, fragile as spun glass. Lila's vulnerability bloomed next, over a picnic in the side yard, peanut butter sandwiches for Mason, deviled eggs for the adults. I knew, you know, she said, watching the boy chase butterflies. About you. Tommy told me, sworn to secrecy. Anthony's fork stilled, memory surging, Tommy's freckled grin, the summer they built forts from hay bales. Where is he now? Lila shrugged. Married, kids. Works the oil fields. Avoids town talk. The revelation stung, a reminder of paths diverged. We all carry ghosts, Anthony said. Lila squeezed his hand. Yours came back to help lay them. Town whispers amplified as the week wore on. At the Piggly Wiggly, old classmates averted eyes or offered limp handshakes, their curiosity veiled in platitudes. Heard you're some big-shot counselor now, drawled Mr. Hargrove, the pharmacist with a comb-over like a bad toupee. Anthony smiled thinly. Just helping kids find their way. Rosa's nephew Diego cornered him at the diner, sliding a slice of pecan pie gratis. Folks say you're stirring the pot. Good. This town's needed a shake-up since the last tornado. Anthony chuckled, the pie's sweetness cutting the bitterness. Evelyn's lucid moments grew rarer, replaced by drifts into sleep where she'd murmur Harlan's name like a litany. Anthony read to her from Walt Whitman, Leaves of Grass, passages on the body electric that made her lips curve. He would have hated that, she whispered once. But I'd have loved it for you. The intimacy deepened, peeling layers of maternal myth to reveal the woman beneath, a girl from Galveston who dreamed of nursing school, sidetracked by a whirlwind courtship and the weight of expectation. Elias arrived on Thursday, stepping off the bus in khakis and a linen shirt, his duffel slung over one shoulder like a troubadour's lute. Anthony met him at the depot, their embrace fierce amid the idling engines. You look like you belong here, Elias teased, inhaling the prairie air. All rugged and brooding. Anthony laughed, the sound rusty but real, guiding him to the car. The drive was a debrief, Elias regaling with Austin gossip, the center's new mural of intertwined hands, a client who'd come out to his folks after Anthony's pep talk. You're changing lives, babe. Don't forget that. Evelyn perked at the introduction, propped in her bed like a queen on her throne. So you're the one who stole my boy's heart, she said, voice threadbare but teasing. Elias knelt, taking her hand with reverence. Guilty as charged. But he had me at hello. They chatted softly, Elias sharing film clips on his phone, Evelyn recounting beach days from her girlhood. Anthony watched from the doorway, a swell of gratitude mingling with grief. This was family, redefined on their terms. Caleb's reaction was predictably thorny, a stiff handshake at dinner, eyes narrowing over pot roast. So you're together, he stated, fork scraping china. Elias nodded, unfazed. 8 years come spring. He's my anchor. Lila cooed approval, Mason clambering into Elias's lap for airplane rides. But tension simmered, after plates cleared, Caleb pulled Anthony aside in the barn. Bringing him here's rubbing salt. Church folks are talking. Anthony's temper flared, hot and sudden. Let them talk. This is Mom's house, not their tribunal. Caleb backed down, but the seed of discord sprouted. Friday brought hospice's grim update, days, maybe a week. The family circled wagons, taking turns at Evelyn's bedside, the rumor vigil of vigils. Elias proved invaluable, his filmmaker's eye-capturing snippets on his phone, Evelyn's laugh at a bad joke, her hand in Anthony's. For the real of us, he murmured. Anthony nodded, throat tight. Lila confided her fears, the baby due in winter, finances stretched thin. Caleb's land obsession blinds him, she said. But you're the glue now. The responsibility settled heavy, yet empowering. Night fell with a vengeance, stars pricking the velvet sky. Anthony and Elias walked the fence line, fireflies winking like conspirators. This place is in you, Elias observed, arm around Anthony's waist. The grit, the quiet strength. Anthony leaned in, their kiss slow and seasoned, tasting of salt and sagebrush. And you're my city light. Back inside, they curled on the guest bed, Elias's stories lulling Anthony toward sleep. But dawn shattered the fragile peace, Evelyn's breathing hitched, a rattle like dry leaves. The call came at 4:17 a.m., Carla's voice calm, she's gone. The house exhaled, a collective sigh laced with sobs. Lila wailed softly in the kitchen, Mason's confusion a heartbreaking echo. Caleb stood stoic by the window, fists clenched, until Anthony clapped his shoulder. She waited for us. All of us. Caleb nodded, tears carving canyons in his face. The funeral planning blurred into a haze, selecting hymns, Evelyn's simple pine box, the plot beside Harlan's under the live oaks. Town turned out in force, hypocritical droves in starched collars, murmuring condolences that rang hollow. The service was a masterclass in restraint, Pastor Ellis preaching redemption without specifics, Caleb's eulogy a litany of Evelyn's peach cobblers and PTA triumphs. Anthony spoke last, voice steady, she taught me love's quiet rebellions, the kind that outlast storms. Elias squeezed his hand from the pew, a lifeline in the sea of stairs. Afterward, the reception at the church hall was a gauntlet, whispers behind paper plates of deviled eggs, eyes on Elias like he was Exhibit A. Diego clapped Anthony's back. Proud of you, man. Stirring the dust. But Caleb's mood soured over coffee, pulling Anthony into the vestibule. The Will Reddings tomorrow. Don't make this harder. Anthony bristled. Harder's what we've always done. Time for easier. That night, alone with Elias in the guest room, grief crested. Anthony wept silently, Elias holding him through the shudders. She saw you, Elias whispered. The man you became. That's her legacy. Sleep came fitful, dreams of Evelyn scattering wildflower seeds across endless fields. The lawyer's office downtown was a relic, oak desk scarred by decades, air stale with cigar ghosts. Mr. Thibodeau, paunchy and bespectacled, cleared his throat. Evelyn's estate, the house to Lila, personal effects divided. The ranch. As per Harlan's codicil. He slid documents across, the back 40 to Anthony, but with a clause, Caleb could buy it out at appraised value, or they co-owned. Caleb's face thundercloud. This is bullshit. Dad never meant. He did, Anthony cut in, voice steel. For redemption. Take it or not, but it's done. Lila intervened, voice trembling. Sell to Caleb, Anthony. Keep the peace. Elias, silent till now, leaned forward. Peace isn't bought. It's built. The room crackled, Thibodeau shuffling papers awkwardly. Outside, under the relentless sun, Caleb exploded. You swoop in with your city boy, preaching like you own the moral high ground? This land's my blood. Anthony stepped close, unflinching. Our blood. And I'm not selling my piece of it, or my peace. Fists clenched, but no blows, Caleb stormed to his truck, tires spitting gravel. Lila hugged Anthony later, tears soaking his shirt. He'll come around. Give it time. Elias drove them to a roadside motel, the neon sign buzzing welcome. In the dim room, they made love slowly, bodies a map of solace, Elias's hands tracing scars, Anthony's lips mapping freckles. You're home with me, Elias murmured. Anthony clung tighter, the rift with Caleb a fresh wound. Days stretched, the house echoing empty. Anthony sorted Evelyn's things, recipe cards yellowed with butter stains, a locket with his baby photo. Lila took the quilts, Caleb the tools. The back 40? Anthony held firm, envisioning a youth camp there, a space for kids like he'd been, under wide Texas skies. Dream big, Elias encouraged over late-night calls. Caleb's call came a week later, meet me at the barn. Anthony arrived wary, Elias waiting in the car. Caleb stood amid hay bales, a bottle of bourbon extended like an olive branch. To Mom, he toasted, voice rough. They drank, the burn loosening tongues. I was jealous, Caleb admitted. You escaped. I stayed, chained. Anthony nodded. Chains can break. By bottle's end, a tentative pact, co-manage the land, Caleb buying out slowly. For the family, Caleb said. Anthony clasped his hand. For us. Healing's first green shoot. Autumn crept into Willow Creek like a hesitant lover, painting the cottonwoods in strokes of amber and crimson, the air crisp with the promise of cooler winds. Anthony extended his stay, the pull of unfinished business stronger than the tug back to Austin. Elias returned to work, deadlines for a doc on queer elders, but promised weekends, their video calls a thread across the miles. The house felt less tomb-like now, Lila and Mason filling it with chaos and chatter, her laughter a counterpoint to the grief's low hum. Anthony dove into Evelyn's garden, tilling soil that yielded stubborn weeds but stubborn hope, planting those wildflower seeds along the creek bed as a living eulogy. Caleb's overtures were clumsy but earnest, invitations to poker nights at the VFW hall, where grizzled vets swapped war stories and sidelong glances at Anthony's city Polish. He held his own, bluffing with a straight face, earning gruff nods. Not bad, little brother, Caleb conceded over beers, the title slipping out unbidden. Anthony savored it, the word a balm on old abrasions. Yet undercurrents swirled, church ladies clucking about the prodigal's influence, whispers of Lila's softness toward the changes. Willow Creek's conservatism was a slow poison, seeping into cracks. A letter arrived mid-month, forwarded from Austin, from Tommy, scrawled on lined paper from the oil rig camp. Heard about Evelyn. Sorry. Always wondered about you. Enclosed was a photo, Tommy, weathered but grinning, arm around a wife and two tow-headed boys. Anthony stared, the image a portal to innocence lost. He drove to the swimming hole at afternoon, the water low but inviting, stripping to swim laps against the current. Memories flooded, Tommy's splash, their bodies brushing underwater, the electric thrill masked as play. Emerging dripping, he penned a reply, wondered too. Coffee sometime. Neutral ground, a toe in the water of what ifs. Lila's labor came early, a stormy October night when lightning forked the sky like veins. Anthony drove her to the hospital in Amarillo, Caleb trailing in his truck, Mason bundled in the back seat singing nonsense rhymes to calm the panic. The delivery was a marathon, 8 hours of contractions and curses, Lila's grip vice-like on Anthony's hand. Don't you dare let go, she gasped. he didn't, whispering encouragements drawn from birthing docs at the center. Dawn broke with a cry, baby girl, red-faced and furious, named Eliza after Evelyn's mother. Caleb teared up in the recovery room, cradling his niece. She's a fighter, he said. Anthony nodded, the family web tightening. Back home, the ranch demanded attention, fences sagging under wind's assault, cattle lowing for feed. Anthony pitched in, his city-soft hands blistering on barbed wire, the laborer meditation. Caleb taught him the nuances, reading a cow's mood, spotting blight in the alfalfa. Dad was wrong about a lot, Caleb said one dusk, wiping sweat from his brow. But he loved this land. Like I do. Anthony straightened, wire cutters glinting. We'll keep it thriving. Together. The word sealed something, a pact beyond paper. Town life wove Anthony in reluctantly, volunteering at the library's story hour, where Mason perched on his knee for readings of Where the Wild Things Are, bumping into Diego at the feed store, trading tales of Austin's queer scene that widened the kid's eyes. You make it sound possible, Diego said. Anthony clapped his shoulder. It is. One step. Rumors persisted, though, a petition circulating at church to restore family values, veiled barbs at the Whitakers' prodigal. Caleb heard, fuming over supper. Let them pray. God's got bigger fish. Elias's weekend visits were oases, drives to Palo Duro Canyon, where red rock spires clawed the sky, their hands linked on the gishift, picnics under cottonwoods, feeding each other grapes while Eliza gurgled nearby. This suits you, Elias observed, sketching Anthony in charcoal, the lines capturing his softened edges. The roots and the wings. Anthony kissed his temple. You suit me. Intimacy deepened in stolen moments, lazy mornings in the guest bed, bodies entwining with the familiarity of years, whispers tracing futures that included Willow Creek weekends, Austin anchor. But betrayal's shadow loomed, insidious. Caleb confided one evening over bourbon on the porch, financial straits, debts from a bad hay crop, the ranch teetering. Need that back 40 cash, he admitted, eyes averted. Anthony's gut twisted. We agreed, slow buyout. Caleb pressed, banks calling loans. Lila's med bills from the birth. The plea hung, laced with manipulation's undercurrent. Anthony stalled, heart heavy. I'll think. Tommy's coffee materialized midweek, at the diner over black brew and donuts. He was broader now, laugh lines etching his face, but the boyish tilt to his smile remained. You look good, and grown. They reminisced gently, school pranks, stolen smokes behind the gym, skirting the charged underbelly until Tommy leaned in. That note. I kept it. Meant the world. Anthony's pulse quickened, the air thickening. Regrets? Tommy shrugged. Some. But life's a river. His hand brushed Anthony's, lingering a beat too long, the touch a spark to dry tinder. Anthony pulled back, polite but firm. Yeah. It is. The encounter stirred sediment, dredging doubts about Elias, steady, yes, but the fire dimmed by routine. Anthony confessed over a call, old ghosts. Elias's voice sharpened. Confront them, don't court them. The advice stung true, but distance amplified fissures. Crisis erupted at month's end. Caleb, desperate, forged documents, attempting to leverage Anthony's parcel for a loan without consent. Lila discovered it first, confronting her husband in tears. How could you? Anthony arrived to chaos, papers scattered like confetti from a coup. Caleb's face crumpled. I was saving us. Anthony's rage boiled over, voice echoing off walls. By stealing? That's Dad's legacy. Fists clenched, but Lila's sob halted the storm. Please. Family. Elias flew in unannounced, sensing the fracture via Lila's frantic text. He found Anthony in the barn, hay-dusted and hollow-eyed. Talk to me. Anthony spilled it all, the forgery, the temptation of Tommy's touch, the fear of repeating cycles. Elias listened, then pulled him close. We're not them. But trust is earned daily. They made love there on a blanket, urgent and reclaiming, bodies a bulwark against betrayal's chill. Reconciliation brewed slowly, Caleb's abject apology over a bonfire, flames devouring the forged pages. I panicked. Like Dad. Anthony nodded, firelight dancing on his face. We break the chain. No more secrets. Lila mediated, Eliza nursing at her breast a symbol of renewal. The pact reformed, joint loan from Anthony's Austin savings, no strings. Healing deepened with community tendrils, Anthony hosting a youth group at the community center, rebranded from church basement to neutral ground, sharing his story to wide-eyed teens. You are enough, he told them, Elias filming discreetly. Feedback rippled, a boy coming out to parents, crediting the talk. Purpose solidified, Willow Creek soil fertile for growth. Thanksgiving loomed, the table set for 8, Whitakers plus Elias, Diego as honorary kin. Turkey golden, yams candid, stories flowing like gravy. Caleb raised a glass, to Evelyn. To us. Anthony clinked, Elias's knee warm against his under the cloth. But as pie steamed, a knock shattered the glow, Tommy, awkward in the doorway, bearing a casserole. Heard about the group. Thought. Eyes locked on Anthony's, the room's hush electric. Caleb's brow furrowed, Lila's curiosity piqued. Elias tensed, hand finding Anthony's. Welcome, Anthony said evenly, pulling a chair. Conversation danced around edges, Tommy's tales of rig life lightening the air. But undercurrents pulled, a shared glance across the table, Tommy's foot brushing Anthony's accidental on purpose. Elias excused them to the kitchen, voice low. What's this? Anthony sighed. Closure. I think. Elias searched his face. Make sure it's not a door. The night ended cordially, but seeds of doubt sprouted. Anthony walked Tommy to his truck, stars wheeling overhead. Don't vanish again, Tommy said, hand on Anthony's arm. Friends. Anthony nodded, but the squeeze lingered, a question unspoken. Inside, Elias waited, arms open. Choose us, he whispered. Anthony did, their kiss fierce, but the fracture hairline fine. Winter whispered warnings, frost etching windows like lace. Anthony's dual life strained, drives to Austin for center shifts, heart divided. Caleb's ranch stabilized, Lila's joy in Eliza a beacon. Yet Tommy's texts arrived, innocuous at first, then laced with nostalgia. Remember the fort? Anthony deleted, but the pull tugged. Betrayal's second strike came swift, Lila overheard Caleb badmouthing Elias at the bar, City Ferry leading him astray, fuel for the petition's fire. She told Anthony, tears streaming. He's scared of change. Anthony confronted, porch showdown under sleet. Your words poison. Caleb deflated. Jealous. You have freedom I don't. Raw honesty, a crack for light. Elias's ultimatum followed a weekend visit, commit here or there. Can't straddle. Anthony agonized, the land's call clashing with city's pulse. In the garden, wildflowers pushed through frost, Evelyn's gift. He chose, expand the youth program in Willow, root deeper. Elias agreed, wary but willing. Build with me. Springstore brought renewal, the back 40 cleared for a cabin, Elias's design, simple A-frame with a studio for his films. Groundbreaking was a ritual, family shovels, laughter mingling with dirt. Tommy attended, distant now, his wife on his arm. Happy for you, he said, handshake firm. Closure sealed. But drama simmered, the petition gained traction, Pastor Ellis summoning Caleb for a talk. Caleb refused, standing with Anthony at the next service, back row, hands clasped. Enough hiding. The congregation murmured, but seed sowed. Anthony's crisis peaked in May, a nightmare of Harlan's rage morphing into Caleb's face. He woke gasping, Elias soothing. Face it, Elias urged. Therapy via Austin Zoom, unpacking layers. You're worthy, the counselor affirmed. Anthony internalized, emerging lighter. Summer bloomed, the cabin rising frame by frame. Family barbecues under oaks, Eliza toddling, Mason's questions endless. Elias filmed a short, roots rewoven, Anthony's voiceover a testament. Festival acceptance buzzed, sundowns nod. Yet conflict crested, anonymous letters to the center, slurs scrawled. Threats escalated, a slashed tire on Anthony's car. Caleb fumed, organizing a town hall. This is our home too. Allies emerged, Diego, Rosa's kin, Rosa herself frail but fierce via call. Fight smart, hun. The hall packed, tensions electric. Pastor Ellis moderated, Anthony speaking, love isn't a threat. It's the cure. Applause rippled, detractors hissed. Caleb's testimony sealed, my brother's home. Deal with it. Petition crumbled, community exhaled. Healing's arc bent toward light, but shadows lingered, Elias's restlessness, whispers of LA opportunities. We adapt, Anthony vowed. They did, love's forge tempering steel. The cabin's first night was a sacrament, moonlight spilling through unfinished windows, the scent of pine sap mingling with takeout tamales from the diner. Anthony and Elias christened the space with slow dances to a portable speaker's blues, bodies swaying to the rhythm of what they'd built. Eliza cooed from her playpen, Lila and Caleb toasting with mason jars of sweet tea on the raw deck. To new chapters, Lila said, her eyes bright with the fullness of new motherhood. Mason chased fireflies, his giggles a counterpoint to the cricket's chorus. Willow Creek, for a moment, felt like sanctuary. But sanctuaries have sieves. Elias's Sundance trip loomed, a week in Park City where industry whispers could bloom into careers. Go, Anthony urged, packing his bag with pressed shirts. This is your shot. Elias paused, hands on Anthony's hips. Ours. Don't forget. The airport goodbye was a knot of kisses and promises, Anthony driving back with the radio's country twang filling the void. The cabin echoed empty, the youth center's bustle a welcome distraction. The program flourished, weekly meetups in the repurposed barn, teens trickling in with backpacks and burdens. There was Riley, a lanky 15-year-old with a mohawk and a poet soul, scribbling verses about crushes on the quarterback, Sophia, trans and terrified, her voice gaining strength in role plays. Anthony facilitated with Elias's remote input, film prompts sparking discussions on identity's silver screen. Feedback poured, parents calling, tentative thanks, school counselor referrals. You're making waves, Caleb noted over fence mending, pride edging his tone. Town integration accelerated. Anthony joined the Chamber of Commerce, pitching the center as economic boon, tourist draws for authentic Texas stories. Skeptics grumbled, but dollars talked, grants trickled from Austin nonprofits. Diego signed on as junior counselor, his tattoos a badge for the kids. Feels right, he confided. Rosa visited once, wheelchair-bound but spirit unbroken, regaling the group with diner lore. I saw you coming a mile away, Anthony. Star material. Tommy faded to periphery, his text sparse, a family photo shared at a rodeo fundraiser where Anthony emceed. Proud of your work, Tommy wrote. Anthony replied politely, the chapter closing with a sigh of relief. Lila's friendship deepened, sisterly coffees laced with advice on everything from diaper rash to dodging church gossip. You're the brother I needed, she said, hugging him fierce. Caleb's transformation was profoundest, volunteering shifts, his deputy's uniform a shield for the kids. Dad would have hated it, he joked once. Good thing he's not here. Elias's Sundance glow returned with him, buzz from distributors, a pilot offer for a series on rural queer lives. Based on us, he announced, champagne corks popping on the deck. Anthony's joy mingled with unease, the specter of relocation, last siren call. We talk it through, Elias assured, their nights a tangle of strategy and skin. But doubt seeded, Anthony's roots ran deep now, the center's pulse his heartbeat. Summer swelled with events, a pride picnic in the square, rainbow flags fluttering defiantly against the courthouse backdrop. Anthony emceed, Elias filming, Caleb grilling burgers with gruff efficiency. Riley read poetry to cheers, Sophia waved a trans flag bold. Detractors picketed edges, signs decrying agenda, but numbers favored progress, locals outnumbering haters 2-1. Pastor Ellis even attended, cornering Anthony post-event. Challenging, but Christ-like. A concession, small but seismic. Crisis brewed in the heat's haze. Lila discovered Caleb's hidden vice, poker debts at the VFW, not the bank loans he'd claimed. His spiraling, she wept to Anthony, Eliza fussing in her arms. Anthony confronted gently, over coffee at dawn. "Talk to me." Caleb broke, voice cracking, the ranch. "It's slipping." "Lost a bet, big." The forgery's echo chilled Anthony. "We face it together. No more alone." They devised a plan, sell timber rights on the back 40, Anthony co-signing. Trust rebuilt, brick by brick. Elias's offer crystallized, relocate to LA, helm the series, center as consultant. Adventure, he pitched, eyes alight. Anthony agonized, walks along the creek yielding no clarity. The kids anchored him, Riley's coming out success, a letter, you saved me. Willow's web, Caleb's reliance, Lila's laughter. A call to his therapist, fear of abandonment. Insight struck, Elias wasn't Harlan, love could stretch. Betrayal's blade turned inward. During Elias's scouting trip to LA, Anthony slipped, a late-night text from Tommy, innocent meetup at the bar turning maudlin. Beers flowed, stories unearthed, Tommy's hand on his knee for old times. Anthony recoiled, fleeing to the cabin, guilt a vice. Confession to Elias via video, I faltered. Elias's face hardened, pain raw. Why? Anthony wept, scared you'll leave. Silence stretched, then, I'm here. But prove it. The rapture forced reckoning. Anthony threw into therapy intensives, unpacking 14-year-old wounds. Caleb joined a session, unbidden, I pushed you away too. Brotherly bond forged in vulnerability. Lila hosted interventions, family dinners dissecting dynamics, Eliza's gurgles the soundtrack. Healing's path wound through action, Anthony proposing a co-op, Elias basing in Austin, commuting LA, center expanding hybrid. Balanced, he argued. Elias relented, with caveats, weekly check-ins. No ghosts. They sealed with a vow renewal under the wildflowers, family witnesses, rings exchanged anew. Fall harvested bounty, the series greenlit, Anthony executive producer, center funded for a year-round space. Caleb's debts cleared, poker sworn off. Town Pride event swelled to festival, drawing media, Houston Chronicle profile, Willow Creek's quiet revolution. Winter whispered contentment, snow dusting the cabin like confectioner's sugar. Elias scripted episodes inspired by Anthony's youth, casting local talent. Intimacy reignited, snowy nights by the fire, bodies rediscovering heat. Yet climax loomed. Anonymous threats resurfaced, tires slashed again, center vandalized with slurs. Investigation pinned to a church deacon, Harlan's old crony. Caleb arrested him, badge heavy. Town hall erupted, testimonies from kids, Anthony's plea, hate hides hurt. Heal with us. Deacon confessed, broken by his own son's suicide, gay, unspoken. Forgiveness circle formed, radical grace. Anthony's crisis peaked in the aftermath, panic attack under stars, Elias holding. You're enough, Elias echoed therapy mantras. Dawn brought resolve, write his story, a memoir pitched to Elias's contacts. Spring 2026 bloomed resilient, book deal inked, cabin complete with wraparound porch. Family Easter under oaks, eggs hidden, laughter free. Riley graduated, dedicating speech to Anthony. Sophia transitioned, community showering support. Betrayal scar faded to lesson, trust as daily practice. Elias's series premiered to acclaim, rural queer tales resonating. Anthony's memoir outline flowed, chapters on return's shock. Summer solstice party, bonfire, s'mores, stars confetti. Caleb toasted, to shocks that wake us. Anthony pulled Elias close, dance slow. To us. But undercurrent stirred, LA pulling Elias, a spin-off offer. Discuss, Anthony said, heart steady. Choice loomed, love's test. The spin-off's allure glittered like fool's gold, Elias helming a companion series on urban queer migrations, LA as epicenter. Its expansion, he explained over breakfast, avocado toast crumbs scattering like decisions deferred. Anthony nodded, fork tracing patterns in his eggs, the cabin's morning light forgiving. And contraction here. The question hung, unspoken fears of distance's erosion. Elias reached across, fingers interlacing. Flights are cheap. Hearts are elastic. But elasticity has limits, Anthony knew, stretched too far it snaps. The center thrived, a beacon in Willow's evolving landscape, after-school programs blending art and advocacy, partnerships with Austin's bigger orgs funneling resources. Anthony mentored a new cohort, Jamal, a black teen from the res edge, wrestling faith and identity, Mia, bi and bold, organizing zines. Their stories fueled him, a counterweight to personal tempests. Caleb co-led workshops now, his deputy's tales of tough love landing with authenticity. Who'd have thought, he quipped, clapping Anthony's back. Lila's world orbited domestic bliss, Eliza's first steps on the cabin deck, Mason's kindergarten tales a daily delight. She confided entrepreneurial dreams, a bakery specializing in gluten-free for the growing health crowd. Your center could cater, she mused. Anthony invested seed money from his advance, their sibling synergy a quiet triumph. Family dinners became ritual, potlucks under string lights, Caleb's ribs smoky, Elias's salads artful. This is the dream, Lila said once, Eliza on her hip. Anthony believed it, mostly. Town dynamics shifted tectonic, the Pride Festival now annual, drawing Palo Duro tourists, local vendors hawking rainbow rodeo teas. Pastor Ellis evolved, pulpit sermons weaving inclusion threads, love thy neighbor, no exceptions. Detractors dwindled, some converting to quiet allies. Diego's coming out at the event, Rainbow Mohawk proud, earned standing ovation. Your ripple, he told Anthony. Tommy's arc completed in autumn, divorce papers served, he sought counsel at the center. Lost myself chasing normal, he admitted, eyes haunted. Anthony listened, boundaries firm. Reclaim it. Here. Tommy joined group, emerging months later with a boyfriend from Amarillo, barista charm intact. Thanks, man, he said, handshake brotherly. Closure's gift, no what ifs, just witness. Elias's commute intensified, bi-coastal weeks, LA meetings bleeding into Austin edits. Anthony adapted, solo cabin nights with memoirs drafts, center late closes. But cracks spiderwebbed, missed anniversaries, curt texts, Elias's exhaustion etching lines. It's temporary, he insisted during a rare overlap, bodies colliding in hurried passion. Anthony clung, but whispers grew, is this sustainable? Crisis ignited in December, holiday lights twinkling ironic. Elias's producer pushed relocation, Lars the hub. Argument erupted post-ugly sweater party, Caleb's tree trimming cheer still echoing. Choose, Anthony demanded, voice breaking. Us or the dream? Elias recoiled. It's not binary. This is our dream. Words escalated, Anthony's selfish, Elias's stifling, culminating in Elias storming to the guest room, door clicking shut like a verdict. Dawn found Anthony on the porch, coffee cold, wildflowers dormant under frost. Lila arrived unannounced, sensing via maternal radar. Fight for it, she advised, wrapping him in a quilt. Like mom wished. Caleb followed, gruff, men are idiots. Talk. Bolstered, Anthony knocked, Elias opening weary-eyed. I fear losing you to the city, Anthony confessed. Elias sighed. I fear losing me here. Vulnerabilities bridge, they mapped compromises, LA Bay 6 months, Willow summers, center remote consults. Healing's labor was Herculean, couples therapy via Zoom with an Austin sage, unpacking attachment scars. Elias delved his own, parents' divorce, fear of stagnation. We're pioneers, the therapist framed. Date nights enforced, canyon hikes, starlit picnics. Intimacy rekindled, slow and sacred, bodies relearning trust's terrain. Spring 2027 unfurled verdant, memoir manuscript submitted, Agent Buzz Electric. Elias's series swept Emmys, rural queer rep hailed revolutionary. Center expanded, an X for Art studio funded by royalties. Caleb proposed ranch co-op, sustainable AG with youth labor. Legacy, he said. Family milestone, Elila's bakery ribbon cutting, Anthony's keynote, from kicked out to cornerstone. Elias filmed, pride palpable. Eliza's second birthday bash, pinata swings, cake smears, joy unadulterated. Betrayals echo resurface subtly, a leaked center email, Jamal's story twisted by media into indoctrination fodder. Backlash swelled, funding cuts threatened, petitions revived. Anthony rallied, press conference with kids' consent, testimonies raw. This saves lives, Riley asserted, voice steady. Elias produced a response doc, viral within days. Allies surged, national orgs, celebrity retweets. Funds replenished, detractors shamed. Personal climax, Anthony's book launch in Austin, Willow contingent en masse. Readings packed, Q&A cathartic. Elias's dedication speech to the boy who returned, shocking us all into love. Post-party, hotel suite, lovemaking tender, vows renewed. Summer scorched, but bonds cooled the blaze. Elias's spin-off greenlit hybrid, LA shoots, Willow sets. Balanced, he grinned. Anthony Center hosted national conference, teens from coasts converging. Fall harvest, Caleb's wedding to a widow from church, soft-spoken Beth, accepting with grace. Anthony best man, toast heartfelt, love's return. Elias captured vows, their own rings glinting sympathetic. Winter solstice, cabin aglow, family gathered. But Elias's whisper post-feast, LA wants full time. The old fear flared. Anthony breathed deep. We negotiate. Crisis peaked New Year's, Elias accepted, citing once in lifetime. Anthony's world tilted, betrayals sting acute. You promised. Elias pleaded, evolve with me. Fracture deepened, Anthony retreating to the creek, ice-fringed waters mocking. Lila mediated, go with him. Willow waits. Caleb, don't lose what Mom built. Kids' letters, don't leave us. Elias's ultimatum softened to plea, join the journey. Anthony's breakdown, solitary drive to the old ranch house, now Lila's, ghosts convening. Harlan's chair empty, Evelyn's quilt draped. Epiphany, return was shock, but staying was choice. Call to Elias, I'll try LA. For us. Healing's pivot, packing the cabin, tears salting boxes. Farewell party, bonfire roasts, promises of visits. Center interim to Diego, steward it. Caleb's hug, proud, brother. LA hit like Austin once had, neon pulse, ocean roar. Anthony consulted remotely, memoir to grounding. Elias thrived, but Anthony wilted, industry schmoozes alien, isolation creeping. Mid-spring crisis, panic in traffic, calling Caleb sobbing. I can't. Elias, mid-meeting, raced home. Then we pivot. Decision, hybrid redefined, LA quarters, Willow primary. Return triumphant, center welcoming, family feast. Shocked again, Caleb teased. Love's resilience proven. Summer healed, cabin renovations, Elias's scripts infused with Texas twang. Book sequel outlined, returned again. Fall Film Festival, Elias's Willow doc premieres, tears flowing. Anthony's panel, homes where the heart rebuilds. Winter warmth, proposals whispered, adoption dreams, family expansion. Climax resolved, betrayal to bond, shock to strength. Life's narrative, ongoing. The adoption papers arrived in April's gentle rain, a manila envelope thick with possibility. Anthony and Elias pored over them at the kitchen table, the cabin's oak beams overhead a canopy of certainty. Two boys, Elias read, voice hushed with awe, siblings from the Austin shelter, ages 6 and 9, brown-skinned cherubs with eyes wide as the plains. Jamal's little brothers, Anthony murmured, tracing their photos. The center connection serendipitous, a full-circle grace. Elias squeezed his hand. Our family. Paperwork cascaded, home studies, interviews, the bureaucracy a gauntlet they ran hand in hand. Willow embraced the expansion. Lila sewed quilts, blue skies and yellow stars, while Caleb built bunk beds in the loft, his hammer strikes rhythmic as heartbeat. Uncle duties, he grinned, sweat beading. The town center hosted a shower, potluck pyramids of casseroles, kids' drawings pinned like banners. Riley, now college-bound, gifted storybooks for the next generation. Diego organized a mural, family hands intertwined, colors vivid against barnwood. Rosa, from her Austin nursing home, sent a check and a note, roots grow deep. Love, Aunt Ro. The boys, named Luca and Matteo, arrived in June, suitcases clutched like lifelines, social worker trailing. Anthony knelt, Elias beside, welcome home. Luca, the elder, eyed them warily, Matteo clinging to his leg. First weeks were tender chaos, nightmares shattering nights, therapy sessions unpacking foster fractures. Anthony drew on center tools, art therapy with crayons bleeding rainbows, hikes where questions tumbled like stones. Elias filmed gently, a family reel sand spotlight. Caleb's ranch wove them in, pony rides on gentle mares, Matteo giggling as wind whipped his curls. Lila's bakery became outpost, Eliza and Mason big cousins doling cookies. Family barbecue swelled, Beth's potato salad, Lila's pies, laughter drowning old echoes. Memoir sequel flowed, shocks and seeds, chapters on fatherhood's forge. Tour kicked off in LA, boys in tow, Elias managing sets nearby. Readings resonated, queer dads in rural America, a rarity rendered real. Backlash lingered, online trolls, a Texas op-ed decrying indoctrination. Anthony responded in ink, love educates. Hate blinds. Center milestone, 5th anniversary gala, black tie under tense. Anthony keynoted, from kicked out to kin. Awards gleamed, community hero plaque, Elias's Doc Oscar nod. Caleb danced with Lila, awkward but joyful, Diego proposed to his barista on stage, cheers thundering. Elias's career crested, series renewal, Willow episodes Emmy sweeps. But balance teetered, LA pulls, boys' school routines. Crisis brewed in August heat, Elias's producer dangled feature directorial, demanding immersion. 6 months, he pitched. Anthony's dread resurfaced, not again. Argument simmered, boys sensing, Luca withdrawing. Betrayal's ghost, Elias accepted secretly, tickets booked. Discovery via stray email, Anthony's fury volcanic. Lies again. Elias deflated, opportunity for us. Boys overheard, Matteo wailing, don't leave. Heartbreaks chorus. Reckoning raw, family intervention at the creek, wildflowers nodding witness. Caleb, honor your word. Lila, kids first. Therapy marathon, Elias unpacking ambitions mask for abandonment fears. I run to prove worth. Anthony, you're worthy here. Pivot profound, Elias declines, negotiating remote helm. Family's my feature. Vow etched deeper, intimacy reborn, nights with boys between, stories whispered till sleep. Fall schooled them, Luca's soccer games, Matteo's finger paints adorning fridge. Halloween parade, superheroes and witches, Willow Street's candy caned. Thanksgiving tableau, extended kin, tables groaning. Caleb's grace, to shocks that shape. Boys thanks, for home. Winter's hush birthed creation, Elias's family doc, boys as stars, authentic, unscripted. Sundance acceptance, tender roots. Spring 2028, Book 2 launch, bestseller whisper. Center Annex opens, naming for Javier, plaque gleaming. Climax crested Memorial Day, town flood, creek swelling biblical. Ranch imperiled, cattle stranded. Anthony rallied, center as shelter, Elias coordinating drones for rescue. Caleb waded waist deep, Anthony beside, boys safe with Lila. Harrowing hours, ropes taut, calves bleating, culminating in dawn salvage. Community converged, sandbags, suppers, stories shared in exhaustion. Aftermath alchemized, town bonds ironclad, detractors aiding. Pastor Ellis, grace in the waters. Center's role lionized, grants gushing. Personal catharsis, Anthony visits Harlan's grave, wildflowers placed. Forgiven, he whispers. Elias witnesses, hand in hand. Summer solstice, beach trip to Galveston, Evelyn's old haunt. Waves lapping, boys building castles, love's tide full. Fall harvest, Luca's school play, Mateo's first poem recited. Elias directs local theatre, Willow stage his canvas. Winter wonder, holiday lights, boys eye saucer wide. Proposal redux, Elias on one knee by the tree. Forever. Anthony, shocked and yes. Wedding spring, simple, Oaks officiating. Vows exchanged, boys ring bearers. Caleb toasts, returned and redeemed. Years montage, boys growing, Luca activist teen, Mateo artist. Center national model. Ranch sustainable, co-op blooming. Memoirs trilogy complete. Elder Grace, Rosa's passing, celebrated diner wake. Her words echo, bigger than dust.